To talk more about the state of the U.S. labor market, we're joined by Sergio Altomare. He is the co-founder and CEO of Hearthfire Holdings. Sergio, welcome to the program. Thanks for chatting with us.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be with you.
Okay, let's talk about the latest job openings and layoffs. Reports are indicating that people are concerned about the labor market, whether to keep his or her job or finding a new one. What can we glean from this most recent government data?
Well, I think what we're seeing is we're seeing a delayed onset of policy shifts. Um, my 22 years at the Fed taught me that the data is a lagging indicator for what we really see is happening. So on one hand, we got Trump trying to promote onshoring, reinvigorate infrastructure, investments in the country. But we also see some weaknesses across labor markets and many sectors. We have a rise in AI and many companies looking to ensure that their margins aren't pitched, that they're able to absorb inflation and do their best and not pass on those costs to consumers. But margins are margins. And so we're seeing a tightening labor market as we look at the hiring over the holidays and we look at holiday spending from a consumer standpoint, we are seeing slowdowns. We're seeing the job labor growth slow. Hires fell by 218,000 to 5.5 million. That signals employers are very cautious about adding staff. Layoffs up roughly to 1.9 million. This is the highest since 2023. The quit rate is down 1.8%, which is the lowest in 5 years. So workers are less confident that they can jump and land a better job.
You know, Sergio, Trump right now in your state giving his speech on the economy, saying that it's A plus 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 right now. I don't think anybody out there really believes that. Give me your thoughts and the expectations for next week's monthly jobs report. You say that it does lag, and I understand that, but it's still all they have to work from.
Yeah, so the way that I look at it is Trump is touting a lot of his international negotiations and tariff policy. So what he is out there promoting is obviously not going to be seen, for some time, or in some cases, it depends on if you're seeing it at all. So what I expect next week is we're going to continue to see weakening job demand. We're going to continue to see weakening growth. And from there, we should expect a Fed rate cut. I personally believe that they're at least a quarter behind in terms of how aggressive these cuts should have been. We expect to see some weakening over holiday sales. Spending is up. But the one area that I am cautiously watching is the buy now, pay later trend. We are seeing the lower end of the consumer using more and more financing mechanisms just to meet ends meet. So we're seeing a lot of that. So I believe that there's a sign of greater weakness and is very disproportionate. Those in the more wealthy status, they're continuing to invest wisely, and those on the lower end are really starting to get pinched.
Yeah, this gap is actually a chasm at this point. So will holiday shopping lead to a last-minute boost in hiring? And where are these jobs? I mean, retail, part-time, is that what we're going to see?
Yeah, so e-commerce is leading. Amazon, for example, is hiring 250,000 workers, whereas traditional retailers are not hiring nearly as much. So we're seeing a little bit of a difference between those in the e-commerce world and those in the traditional retailing world. So I think that we're going to continue to see a uptick from possibly last year, but the furthest thing from broad growth or the signs of a really strong and healthy economy.
You know, I want to talk a bit more about the Fed. Obviously, everybody's going to be watching what happens, not just here in the U.S., but I know it dragged the Asian markets down, and the European markets are really anxiously waiting to see what's going to happen. You say they're about a 0.25% behind. Okay, let me play devil's advocate here. What if they don't lower interest rates tomorrow? What is that going to do to consumer confidence, to the markets? And when people lose their 401k, even though it's on paper, man, they tend to just ball up.
So there's an 80-90% consensus that they're going to cut the rates by a quarter point. If they don't, that would really spook the market. All the data points are suggesting that a cut is pretty much baked in. What I believe is really more is being watched are what are their comments around for future cuts. Are they going to continue to wait and see? Are they going to continue to be a little bit more aggressive? I believe the recent data points that we have seen suggest that they will, in fact, cut a quarter point, and future cuts will not be off the table. Again,
Mm.
it's about watching inflation, watching the unemployment rate, and watching where the labor markets are, and obviously the holiday season shopping.
Sergio, I want to talk about the U.S. economy just a bit more because polls show that 63% of the people out there right now are blaming Donald Trump for the position the U.S. is in, whether they believe it's good or bad. And a lot of people want Trump to quit blaming Biden for everything that's happening to the U.S. What are your thoughts on that? Is that really having some kind of adverse effect on the administration and therefore bleeding into what's going on with the U.S. economy?
Yeah, so I think that there's an element of, I strictly focus on the data and what I see in the day-to-day world and in the investment world. I think there's certainly a level of politics. I think that we are still 5 years post-COVID, and the COVID what we saw was unprecedented with COVID. We saw the global economy shut down for months, and then we saw unprecedented stimulus. That stimulus that went directly to the consumer was unprecedented. So, what happened from 2020 post COVID, 2021, and 2022 had to work its way through the system. I personally don't believe that that is done. I believe that what we are still dealing with are repercussions of that. We could make the argument that the inflation we saw under Biden was from the post COVID uh, stimulus that happened with Trump in office. So there are arguments. There's certainly lagging indicators that need to be evaluated.
Mm.
I personally believe that the model of getting international investments in the states is the right one. We are heavily invested in states that are investing in infrastructure and import dependent, or that can take advantage of these investments. So I believe that there is what we're dealing with today, which is a slowing economy. There's investments that are now coming in. There's capital that's been sitting on the sidelines for years that is now falling and being reinvested. We're having conversations with a lot of institutional investors as we speak. So we're seeing that free up, but there's a lot of wait and see as well. I mean, a lot of what is being promoted, a lot of these policies, a lot of these tariffs, there's a lot of wait and see. There's a lot of, uh, let's be honest, Donald Trump is a phenomenal marketer. So what he's doing is selling his agenda,
Yeah.
and that's going to continue. There's a big push now for the midterms.